What's up, guys? I want to talk a little bit more today about motorsport games and the recent conference call that they had for their investors. And I promise I'm going to keep this video shorter than I normally do. But Austin Oganowski just released this video. I'm not going to show it to you, but I'm going to put a link in the description. Go check it out. He did a really good job of covering everything that's going on in relation to motorsport games and the conference call and all this stuff that's going on. He did a much better job than I ever really could. He said a lot of the things that I was thinking, and I don't always articulate myself the best, but go check it out. I'm putting a link in the description. It does cover a lot of things that I've talked about, but he really gets into more detail, and it's a short video, but it really is like a layman's introduction to the things I've been talking about for years, by the way. Those of you who have been watching my videos for years will probably remember years ago when 704 Games first started talking about esports and pushing it. And some of you might remember I actually did a video, and it was I had a tantrum, right? It was a rant video, and I was really upset because I knew back then, and I warned people that esports, this whole push for esports, was never going to lead to better NASCAR games. Like, I always felt like they're completely off the rails. I'm a big believer in keeping it simple, and the old school business model of just focusing on gameplay and making the games more interesting and fun and immersive. That's always going to get that's always going to be more successful. It's going to lead to more success as a game developer than focusing on things that just don't matter. Things like this esports stuff and other things they do to overhype aspects of the gaming community that honestly do not generate real revenue. Now, I've always been, again, those of you who are new to the channel, maybe you don't know this, but I have been talking about this stuff for a long time. And I warned people years ago when 704 Games, I don't remember if this happened between NASCAR Heat 3 and 4. It was around that time, all right? I really have to go back and check, but that's when 704 Games really started pushing this esports stuff, and I was dead set against it, and I saw the writing on the wall. I warned people, this isn't going to lead to better NASCAR games. They need to focus on things like gameplay, career mode, and every year I've given ideas. I've put forth ideas. Things like having an interactive crew chief that's part of your career mode, and that kind of guides you along as you go. It's the perfect way to build a career mode around a relationship between you and a crew chief, right? And maybe even if you switch teams or go to another, completely different organization, you get a different crew chief, whatever it is, but having that interaction where you feel immersed in this world. And this career mode is about you, and you can have that interaction, and it gives you an incentive to spend time in practice and testing and things like that, where you can come up with your own custom setups with the guidance of your crew chief, and being able to like answer certain questions, things that we saw in Project Cars 2 in a much smaller scale, but things like that, to me, would lead to better games and making them more immersive and giving you a bigger sense of accomplishment. All the things that have been lacking in NASCAR games for many years, going all the way back to when Eutechnyx first came on the scene. So this whole esports ecosystem garbage, I've never been a fan of it. I've always questioned the business model. I cannot tell you that I'm an expert because I don't fully understand how this whole thing works as a business. And I've always questioned it. And in this video, Austin Aganowski does a great job getting to the point, explaining certain things, and you walk away understanding, or you should, like, okay, this is a problem. The things that I've been trying to say, and I haven't been capable of doing it, it's right here. This is the video. The things that he's talking about here are the things I've been trying to say, but I just haven't done a good enough job of doing it. Plus, not a lot of people watch this channel, so. But I'm glad that he did it. This is excellent, and as he explains here, this business model is really mostly entirely based on sponsorship, right? So if you remove the sponsorship aspect of it, where does this profit actually come from? This is not real. And this is what I've been trying to tell people for so long. This whole online competition thing, yeah, I've seen these things where they become a big deal. But we're talking about things like Call of Duty and other stuff like that with a massive, massive following. And as Aganowski points out, they use R Factor as this big thing that generates millions of viewers. I mean, they're just throwing numbers out there that completely out of context, and it's just completely misleading, right? And I think that's what they use to lure in, fish and lure in potential sponsors, and saying, hey, look, we can generate this many viewers to your products and stuff like that, and you can sponsor this stuff. And if a sponsor that is just looking for a quick source of possible revenue to where they can put their marketing and their sponsorship money, they might look at that and say, hey, this sounds great, let's just give it a shot. And it really does really look like these guys are just scammers, or they're just in over their heads. Maybe they came in with good intentions, really believing in this stuff, and it's just a terrible business model. It's just like Aganowski said, another thing he said here, that it's like it's almost like he's reading my mind. These are the things I've been trying to say, but it is basically a house of cards. It's almost entirely based on potential viewers, and this whole business model never ever it was never something. It always made me cringe, and I always hated how instead of focusing on the games and the gameplay, making the number one job of any game developer, or the number one focus, I should say, how can I make this fun? How can I make this more immersive? Where the best games are incredibly immersive, where you play these games and you get sucked in and you really feel like you are part of this world, whatever it is. And the better job you can do of getting people lost in that world, the better the game is. The more fun people have. And something else I've talked a lot about is a sense of accomplishment. When was the last time you played any NASCAR game where you felt a sense of accomplishment? Like, I need to complete this race, and I really want to see, where I finish, and how does that affect everything else that happens? And how does this affect my career? And what happens after? It's like, that's the focus that I would have as a developer. This is why I talk about things like having that interactive crew chief, where I know, like, okay, I'm going to spend some time in practice. And now I can communicate with my crew chief, go out, run 10, 20 laps, come in, and then maybe answer some questions and talk about, hey, the car's just too tight on entry in turn 1, and things like that. And then you can have that crew chief kind of guide you through what changes they can make and how that affects the car. Doesn't that sound immersive and interesting? If you were just somebody who wants to play a NASCAR game, wouldn't that make you actually look forward to spending time in practice and testing really things that have never been interesting? Instead of just jumping into races and whatever and running a bunch of laps, there's a lot you can do to make these games deeper and more immersive and giving you a sense of accomplishment. This is why I talk about presentation, pre-race, post-race, where the announcers or you can have interviews, announcers talking about, okay, you finished 8th at Richmond. In the post-race, talk about that. Say, hey, Jose Polanco finished 8th, and now he's running 20th in the point standings. He's going to have to do better next week at Talladega. Keeping you invested in every aspect of your career mode, or your career, I should say, that's what the career mode needs to be all about. It's what makes games like NBA 2K and MLB The Show so good in terms of career mode I'm talking about, right? And you never get that in any NASCAR game. They're too focused on DLC paint schemes. They're too focused and this esports ecosystem garbage. And the average consumer, the average gamer who picks up these games doesn't give a fuck about esports. And I've been talking about this for years. I've been telling people, and these guys, they're just like, they have tunnel vision. They only see the potential profit of this garbage. And if they haven't learned by now that this is, as Austin Oganowski said, a house of cards, this thing's going to collapse at any moment. Now, who knows what's going to happen this year? It's doubtful that they're going to make it. You know, who knows? This thing could implode before they ever even get to the point of releasing the next game. This is why it's so important that, as I've been hammering and hammering and hammering away to you guys, as consumers, we have to do better. We have to be more careful about what we spend our money on, because that's what sends a message. If you buy the games and then complain about it, they already have your money. And you see this happen all over the place, where developers make it really difficult for you to get your money back. And it's like, we have to stop rewarding failure. So I'm not telling you never buy the next game. That's not what I'm saying. Can you please just give it 2-3 weeks? That's all I'm asking. You can run and buy the game after 2-3 weeks. But make sure you give it a few weeks where you can follow what's going on. The community is going to let you know what this game is, what it looks like, how does it play, what's good about it, what's bad about it. And then you can decide, is this worth my money? We have to make them earn it. I don't care what they market. I don't care what they promise. That's all I'm asking. So if they end up releasing this next game, whatever it is, I am going to do a video on what they need to do. Even though I'm going to be honest with you guys, I wasn't going to do that this year. I really feel in my heart of hearts, it's a waste of time. And I'm tired of doing it. But just for the off chance that maybe they're desperate enough to really listen to the community, I'll do it. It doesn't hurt me. It's, to do a video. I'll do it. But you're going to be hearing a lot of the shit I've already talked about for 10 fucking years. Because I truly believe in this stuff. I know in my heart of hearts. You develop a game around a career mode that's deep and immersive, and you have an immersive interaction with your crew chief. Make it where you can guide the casual average gamer through the career, and you learn as you go. Anybody can go online and just copy and paste somebody else's setup, but you don't feel invested. And I've been talking about this for so long that it's just it's just I got to be honest with you. I'm a little uneasy about it because it's like I feel like I'm talking to a wall. But if you don't start focusing on delivering a deeper career mode and making the games more immersive, and I'll give you an example. The career mode in NASCAR 21 Ignition is the opposite of what I'm talking about. First of all, there's no custom career mode. I mean, no custom setups. So we know that's an issue. But even if they add custom setups, it's not immersive in the way that I'm talking about. When you sign with a team, you're still driving a car with somebody else's name on it. The most simple thing that you could actually change, they didn't even do that. How immersive is that? That I sign with this sponsor and this team, and then I'm driving a car and it's Kyle Busch's name on it. You don't feel like this career mode is about you. You're just in there. That's why I talked about the pre-race. Yeah, it's nice, it's flashy, but once you've seen it once or twice, you skip through it because it has nothing to do with you. It's like watching a race on TV, but you're detached. The game is more of like you watching from the outside rather than you being part of it. A pre-race should be about maybe having somebody stick a microphone in your face, ask you a couple of questions while you're standing on the pit road before the Star Spangled Banner or whatever. But whatever it is, right? There's a million things you can do. Having the announcers talk about you. What place are you in the point standings? Where did you run the previous week? Where did you finish? Little details like that keep you immersed. And you know going in that every pre-race and every post-race is going to change just a little bit. It doesn't have to be the biggest change in the world, but just hearing about you, how you're doing as the season goes, that's all you really need. And that's going to keep you invested. That's going to make you care about where you finish and what is the announcer going to say after the race. These are the type of things that I would focus on as a developer. And then of course, the AI, and making sure that the gameplay is actually fun. They've failed on all of these aspects, and yet they're still pushing this esports ecosystem garbage down everybody's throat. And what's the fucking market for this? It seems like it's all made up. And that's why people do call them con artists, because that's what it comes across as. That what are you trying to sell people? It's this market is always been a big question mark to me. How does this work as a business model? As a profit? Where does the profit come from? It's all driven by sponsorship. The sponsors are not there, this thing implodes completely. So, basically, this video that Austin Aganowski made, kudos to him. He did an excellent job. It's like it just felt to me like everything I've been trying to say for years, he's saying it right here. And I've never been a fan of this whole company. It just really always made me. It never felt right. Where does all this money come from? All this investment money, what is it based on? And it does feel like a giant con. I'm not going to go as far as to just outright say they're con artists, because it's possible they're just bad business people who really believe in the product. This has been coming for a long time, for years. So, when con artists usually are these guys who show up overnight and they push this con and then they move on to the next town. These guys have been around long enough pushing this and trying to build this thing. I really think they believe in it, and I think it's a disaster, and I think it's just they're delusional. But now they're at a point where they're just lying about things, trying to sell people on the idea that there's a real market for this, and they're bamboozling their investors by playing with the numbers and just saying that, well, look, we got this many viewers and this thing is huge. And as Oganowski pointed out, R Factor, you know, you say what you will, how big is that audience, right? So he even points out in the video that there's this many people playing it at any given time. So where are you getting all these millions and millions of people? That the two things do not jive. It doesn't make sense. So that's really all I'm going to say about this. And I brought this up because he did a great job with this. This pretty much is what I was been trying to say, but somebody else just said it better. And, you know, so he's doing a great job. Go check it out. And, yeah, when there's more to talk about, I'll talk about it. So I really think you guys are going to fully understand what I've been trying to say. Go check this video out and you're going to see for yourself that this is pretty much what I've been trying to warn people about. This whole esports ecosystem thing is a big, it's a big con. It's what it is. They've been pushing it for so long. When is this thing going to pay off? It never really does. And just because you have these one-off esports events that get a big audience, you're not going to get that for these games. You're not going to get that for a NASCAR game or any of these games. The smart way for a developer to go about business is to keep it simple, focus on the game. At the end of the day, that's your number one product. Not this esports shit. It's the game. People buy these games to have a good time and enjoy themselves. It should be fun and immersive. Until you really focus on that, nothing else matters. And as Oganowski pointed out, this thing may not make it to the end of the year. We may not see that next game. The numbers do not look good. And the last time I talked about the finances and the share prices, I had somebody come in the comment section talking about, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. But then he followed that up by pointing out, I just bought, I don't remember the exact number, but it's like, oh, I just bought 1,500 shares. So it's like, oh, no wonder you're trying to make it look like I don't know what I'm talking about and that things are better than everybody thinks it is because you just bought 1,500 shares. Come on. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. I'll put a link in the description to the video. Go check it out. It's a short video. It's less than 8 minutes long, but it really, unlike me, who just talks and talks, it gets to the point and in a very precise way. So go check it out, and I'll see you guys around. Later.